Okay, so last week we looked at theme and rhyme, and we examined a variety of sentences and looked at underlining everything up to and including the verb and calling that the theme. And then we looked at everything after the verb and called that the rhyme, and we talked about why strong themes were important. But today we're going to go into a bit more detail. And we're going to talk about how creating a flow, how you create a flow throughout your piece, and how why creating, connecting your themes to your rhymes is important in creating this flow. So let's have a look at this paragraph here. This is from an analytical essay. In a place like Anawari, it is difficult to be the kind of person Abdul is depicted as in the text. How he was forced to sacrifice his childhood to earn and to collect and sort garbage at around 6 years old and is now the household earner. He doesn't complain and is very resilient because of the situation he was born in and makes the most of it, making his family one of the better off in Anawari. Boo shows Abdul is a strong, mentally strong young man who has had to step up for his family. He is said to want to be more than others, like how others are water, he wanted to be ice, showing how he wanted to be a good person and pure in a place riddled with corruption and people that only care for themselves and no one else. He believes that if he holds himself to this standard, it could mean not just a better life for him, but for his family. Let's compare that to this one. Um, In a place like Anawadi, community support and unity is rarely seen between people with different backgrounds and belief systems, although it is clear that without unity and support, the situation of those within the community will likely only worsen, creating further festering grievance and ambient envy. Boo uses juxtaposition from the onset of her work of literary nonfiction to emphasize the social divide that exists within Anawadi by emphasizing the differences that exist between the overcity and undercity. Boo makes it clear that this place where unity and support is rare, a small unspookable boy was sitting with arms around knees in a sparingly blue haze by the sewage lake that reflected the neon signage of a luxury hotel across the water. This division then extends to the intricate social hierarchy that exists within Anawadi, now less based on caste than on the future economic prospects. We might say that the second one is a much better piece of writing than the first one, but and there might be a number of reasons for that. But let's look at one in particular. The first text, really, we could break that up into dot points. Yeah, in a place like Anawadi, how he was forced to sacrifice. He doesn't complain. Boo shows Abdul. He said to want. They're pretty independent sentences, and there's not a lot of connection between the sentences. We're not seeing this sentence relate to that one, and this sentence relate to that one, and this sentence relate to that one. There's no flow from one sentence to the next, right? Well, in this sentence, in this paragraph, the end of one sentence relates to the beginning of the next, and you have this flow throughout. I mean, you feel like you're taken on a journey from the topic sentence that leads you through his examples and quotes down to the linking statement. Um, so if we look at a reminder about theme and rhyme, so theme is the subject of the sentence, is the topic, everything up to and including the verb. So in a sentence like this, in a place like Anawadi, community support and unity is, right? So we know that this sentence is going to be about Anawadi, but it's also going to be about community support and unity, right? So that's we find out quite a lot about uh, the sentence before we even start, right? So what do we find? What is it about community support and unity? Well, that it's rarely seen between people of different backgrounds and belief systems, right? That's the Rheme. It's the object of the sentence, it's the details. It tells us about the theme. If this is going to be, if the sentence is going to set up for us that the sentence is going to be about community and support and unity, then what about community support and unity? The second half tells us what it is about these things. Well, what about um, uh, the next sentence, right? Well, with the next sentence, it's actually divided with a semicolon, right? But I like to think of semicolons as semi-full stops. They're basically a way of starting a new clause. So, um, although it is clear that without unity and support, the situation of those within the community will, right? So we have a connection with unity and support. It's connected to two places, isn't it, right? Um, uh, with one, it's connected to um, uh, different backgrounds, right? It's also connected to community and support, right? Those within the community, right, are also connected to different backgrounds. Yeah. So it really sets up for us, kind of saying, so you know what I was saying before, right? So we'll put that in the theme. So what about that? I'll add to that by saying likely will only continue to worsen, creating further festering grievance and ambient envy. So we set something up in the theme of the first sentence, give more detail in the Rheme of the first sentence, link to that in the theme of the second sentence, and then give more detail again in the Rheme of the second sentence. So you can see that this creates a link to here. This creates a link to here. And this creates a link to here. So we have this flow moving from one to the next, to the next, to the next. So with if you remember, we've already talked about participant, process, circumstance. What we're doing. Sorry, who's doing something? Is the participant. What they're doing is the process, and the circumstances under which they're doing it is the circumstance. So the old farmer who lived up the street, that's the person doing something. Went to market, that's what they're doing. Every summer is the circumstances in which they went. And we remembered that we could put that at the front, couldn't we, if we wanted to. All right. With and this is what I'm talking about here with the marked theme or a prepositional phrase. We can put the circumstance either at the front or we could put it at the back. And what that does is it just changes the beginning of that sentence. So why would we want to do that? Why would we want to? We've talked about putting it at the front, but and we've talked about how it changes the focus from the old farmer to every summer. What it also does is it kind of, from a theme and Rheme perspective, it extends the theme, doesn't it? Right? If you look at this the previous sentence with the theme at the end, with the circumstance at the end, then the theme would be the old farmer who lived up the street went, right? Well, if we put the circumstance at the beginning, the sentence now becomes every summer the old farmer who lived up the street went, right? So it extends that theme position, doesn't it? And if we mention summer or something about time or as years pass, right? Then maybe putting this prepositional phrase or a circumstance at the beginning will allow us to connect to the previous Rheme, right? Okay. So um, and obviously we can use all sorts of marked theme to create this connection from the previous Rheme to the current theme. After a brief note about kingdom values, in a place like Anawadi, due to whatever that says, right? That might connect to the previous sentence. and then we can connect into these sentences as we need to. Right. So prepositional phrases or post modifiers. We've talked about prepositions, right? Uh, on, in, under, off, over, at, to, by, on behalf of, because of, on account of, for the sake of, right? And we can put them in as a post modifier. You know, a young boy on behalf of the sister took the money back to the bank, right? And again, right? That's now our theme, isn't it? So, you know, if we were talking about the sister in the previous sentence, it might be nice to mention the sister again in here. So we might maybe we'll put it as a little post modifier. Um, Prepositional, sorry, the young boy on behalf of his sister took. And that allows us to create again this connection, all right? So here's an example from RE rather than from English. Luke 25, 39 found that in the infancy of narrative section of the gospel tells the story of Mary and Joseph presenting Jesus to the temple of Jerusalem. Prior to this event was the story of Jesus' birth. Was, okay, prior to this event was, right? That's the theme of the sentence, right? Prior to this event. Well, that now connects to the previous sentence. Was, okay, the story of Jesus' birth and how it came to Bethlehem. Unlike John the Baptist's birth, right, in chapter 1, over the two verses, the birth of Jesus is, right? That's all the theme in there, isn't it? All right, the is the verb. The birth of Jesus, it connects to the Rheme of the previous sentence. Told over 20 verses, indicating straight away to the audience the importance of developing Jesus' identity. And on it goes. And so it creates this flow throughout the piece by connecting the Rheme of the previous sentence to the theme of the next one. Now, this might seem really tricky. It might seem like something that will be very, very hard to do. But you know, it's one of these things. A lot of things are tricky the first time you try them, and might seem really unnatural the first time you try it. But over time, it'll become very, very naturally, and you'll find that you don't even think about it. You're just writing, and you'll you know, it'll just roll off your tongue. Okay, I'll roll off the pen. All right, so give that a go and try the activities.